Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And yesterday was the normal battles for Jubilee, and today is the boss battles. Now, I want to lead off not only with my normal disclaimers, but also a very heavy caveat, is that these are not my best runs. These are my initial runs plus some alternate teams. And I'm not uploading my best runs because I haven't got a best run yet. Like, these scores are the best I've got the entire day that I've been attempting to record this, and this Jubilee is just not working with me. So if I wanted to post these videos today and, at least give people an idea of what needs to happen for these stages, and I was trying to go for like the big time run, this wouldn't go up like this entire week. Like, I know it wouldn't go up because it's just refusing to work with me. So I apologize. These are not like super duper runs. I know it says I'm rank 5, but if you take a look, like, sure, I'm at 258 at rank 5, but then you got 305, 372, and then Sweaty Nature's at 500,000. So it's like there is a lot of room for me to improve. But if I want to try and get like these 300s or attempt this 500 thing, it's going to take days at the rate that I'm going. So I just need to get this video up for you guys sooner rather than never. So there is a lot of room for improvement even on the initial run that I'm going to showcase because I can't get it. But I mean, apart from that, I mean, if I get a really good run, then I will post it separately down the line, but I'm not going to hold you guys hostage for that. So disclaimers, your results may vary. They're going to vary a lot, even for me. Protection and skill point units up here, and optimize your magic buildings in town. Other than that, let's get started with Boss Battle 1. Alright, so Boss Battle 1 does have 3 enemies, so you'd think like, oh, AoE. Well, the meta didn't really give us an AoE DPS unit. It gave us the Rimuru, whose great utility. He's not exactly what I would call damage. And even if you give him other supports, like the rest of the team, it's not going to work quite as well as you want it to. Milim, pretty basic attack and ult gauge, fine. Leon gives defense and crit resistance, so if you're going to bring a crit-focused team, you're pretty much going to need Fire Milim to seal this. And then Dino is shafting the Vengeance team, nerfing greens and sealing the body and spirit changing skills, which are the Vengeance skills. So with the starting hand being a Violet or Megamine Orb change, it makes it very difficult to get the Vengeance team really working effectively before his seal comes in on like turn 3. So, I mean, you can get lucky, right? But you're going to send like 3 blues, you got another one coming. You're only going to have like 44 points, and it's not enough for a double orb change, so it gets a little hairy. So we don't use the Vengeance team in this video. But we do use a pretty hefty team for this run. So it's not this team, because I switch it up a little bit further in. It's going to be this team, with Lumi, Albus, Warrior's Mind Violet, and then Blanc Jean and New Violet. So we've got the green orb change and the pierce resistance debuff, the alt resistance down, and then, what these 3 girls do, which we're really aware of what they do. But Albus, you could swap out for, Cosma if you wanted to. You could swap her out for any green orb changer. You can bring, Warrior's Mind Guy if you have him and you don't, have another green focused unit. You could bring, free-to-play Water Rimuru for all I care. But, a green orb changer is going to be necessary, because Violet's taking care of the oranges, and 1 green. Not really going to be enough in case RNG hates you. Warrior's Mind Violet is going to give that really powerful ult resistance, plus she can convert her own orbs, so it's just more insurance on orb changing, and then damage. So we got to fast forward a little bit further. Let's see. Right here, I believe, is where we start up. I think. 9 minutes? Yes, alright, so 9 minutes. Alright, sorry. I have to jump around because these clips are long. So, turn 1 is the Violet Orb change. Pretty simple. And as long as you can get a good spread of orbs for every single unit, where it's always like a 2-2-2 for your units, then you're gonna get the EX alts for all three, which is gonna work really well. But what I have discovered in my attempts is that it really heavily favors one unit, and it just completely ignores another one. So in this run, I'm gonna get a lot of Jean orbs, and I'm gonna get nothing for Blanc. Like right here, 4 and 2. Okay, awesome. Not really like the start of the fight. It's not that big of a deal, but once you get towards the end of the fight, and you have 2 EX alts and you have half an alt gauge for Blanc, like things are gonna look a little grim. I am running an alt gauge on Blue Orb Charm, the 40% extra alt gauge, which is just trying to help us get EX alts for everybody, and it would really work if I got Blanc orbs, and unfortunately we don't. So like look at that. That's 2 turns in a row where it's 4 Jean and 2 Violets, and not a thing for Blanc. Things are gonna happen like this, and this is why I've been having such trouble trying to get this video recorded. Boss battles are just not working out for me, and I've been sitting here for roughly about 5 hours now, just attempting the boss fights, and I'm about ready to flip this table over. So I just need to get these videos out and give you guys an idea of what to do, so you can attempt it with whatever you have in your box. And I'm going to sit here and continue to do it and attempt to get a much better score. I'm very confident that I can get a much higher score than the 800 something that I have right now. And while that may seem very 1%y try hard of me, like yeah, it does, it is. But at the same time, like this is nowhere near the most optimized thing I could do. And normally when I put these videos out, I want the runs to be optimized. But if I try and optimize them, I'm going to get this video out next week. And you're going to have like 2 hours left of Jubilee, and it's not what I want to do to you guys. So we're just going to have to run with it. If I get a better run down the road this week, then I will be sure to post it and show you guys the team and how it went and what the strategy is. But for now, I'm just gonna get this video out and call it a day, because I kind of jubileed out, and it's only the second day. Second and a half day, I guess, but it is what it is. Other substitutions you could bring, like we've covered what we could bring for Albus. As far as Violet, Warrior's Mind Violet is concerned, you could sub in pretty much anybody else. Like the Space Rimuru with the skill fusion, Octogram Lumi for the permanent alt buff is definitely an option. You could bring Aqua, right? You're going to be missing, well, if you've got the green orb change covered, you can bring Aqua and she'll be, an alt gauge rusher, which, could solve the problem of not getting any orbs for somebody. And also, she would give us that massive pierce buff, and that's probably going to push our damage quite a bit higher, because in the beatdown battle, we weren't able to pierce. We were kind of able to crit, because we have Milim to seal the crits, but no one, to this day, still, seals pierce rate, or pierce resistance, so I don't know when that's going to come into the game, if it ever comes into the game. But now that we have the Aqua option, she is going to bring a lot more utility, so if we try it again, when we try it again, I'll probably put her on and see how it goes. It's just that we'd be losing out on the alt, or the orb changing power that Warrior's Mind Violet has, which can come in handy. So, yeah, it is what it is. And then as far as like not having Blanc Jean or Violet, like if you're missing Violet, the only other orb changer that can get you this to work would be Megamine, who's a collab unit, who if you don't have her, you just have to make do with the fact that she's probably never coming back. And that's just the unfortunate truth of how much it takes to license a different IP for your game. So, I mean, if you don't have Violet or Megamine, your turn 1 is going to be pretty crappy. You could bring just a normal orange orb changer and just have 5 blues turn 1. You could bring like one of the special converters and have just left over 1 orange. You could bring like Frey or Sokka or Ramaris or Wind Trainee, who has the orb change and the alt rush ability. So I mean, she's not a bad option for people if you have her and you don't have anyone else to bring. It's just that she's not bringing damage support, she's bringing utility support, like the Visions of Coleus Rimuru, who you could also put on the team for his Unity orbs, and that would definitely solve a lot of your alt gauge issues, alongside still getting you maximum protection gauge and maximum points. So he does have a place on here as far as, helping you get your 3 EX alts more than anything. So, we've got 2 turns left. We have the EX alt for Jean, awesome. And then we're going to bring in Blanc, who does not have an alt. We might get an alt here, but also because of how we had to do this, Albus is up front and Jean is in the back, and we kind of need the Pierce buff on our 2 space nukers, right? We don't want it on Blanc. She's not going to do as much damage as Jean is. So this is why this is kind of a failed run, and also she doesn't have her EX alt. So we're going to give the Pierce buff to a unit without the EX, who's not going to benefit from the extra 70% damage that Jean's giving to the EX alt. So this, was not a good run, and it could be a lot better. So as long as you recognize how it can be better, because we would have EX alts, Blanc would be in the back right now, and Jean would be up front instead, and then we could use the Pierce buff. It would be a lot better. And also, we just don't have enough points. So we're going to use the alt resistance down right there, and then we're going to bring Jean in. So we're technically not missing a buff on anybody, but we are missing an EX alt. And, well, we are technically missing the Pierce buff, but it's not like on 2 units and not 1. It's just not there, because we don't have enough points. So, ideally, on this, you would have, like, the magic buff on Jean and Violet, and they would move to the back on the previous turn, so we could hold it. And then we bring the other units in. So, that's one way to do it. So that's a lot of damage. Violet does 4 million, and Jean does 4.9 million for, let's see, almost 12 million damage right here, I think. Just about. Yeah, 11.8. So, I mean, that's a lot of damage. It's a lot of damage. It could be more. It could always be higher. So that is my initial run for this stage. Not the best, but definitely better than nothing. So, 258,007. Again, Sweaty Tryhard Nature is at 500,000, so double what I have. Room for improvement. But that's a semi-decent run for you. Let's show off the other alternate runs that I've got for alternate teams. Alright, the second team is what I would call a half meta, right? We've got Lumi, we've got Rimuru, and we've got Violet, but we're not going to bring Blanc or Jean, so we have to substitute those units out for some extra damage and extra utility. So, we've got Guy to cover the greens. We've got Visions of Koli's Rimuru, who's, in AoE, he does have the type advantage, extra damage buff from Lumi. He's got the Unity Orbs. We've got Summer Shizu for her weakness buff and her single alt swap ability. And then we've got Space Milim as a secondary single target nuker, who also has the space buff for everything. However, the one thing you have to take account for Milim is that they do seal body and spirit changing skills, and that's her Drago effect. So, more likely than not, you're not going to be able to use the Drago skill and enhance Milim even further. It's kind of unfortunate, but, you use what you got, right? So, turn 1, we still have Violet, so she's still got the turn 1 orb change covered. Guy is going to handle the other side, so even if we get, 3 oranges and 3 greens, we can change that entire hand in the future with the power of those 2 combined. We're going to go a little bit faster as well, if you haven't noticed. Otherwise, this video would be 30 minutes long. And we're going to try and make it 20 minutes or something like that. Maybe a little bit less. Maybe a little bit more. Who knows? But, I mean, honestly, the team is the same. We got really lucky here with just the Rimuru swap. He does get the extra damage, and if we can AoE with him, he will probably do decent numbers, because he would at least have the alt buff and the magic buff and the stacks from Lumi if we give him a lot of stacks. So it's not like he's incapable. It's just that the weakness buff is going to want to go towards our 2 single target units more than anything. But maybe we switch that around, and instead of Milim, because she doesn't have Drago, she's already not going to be as powerful as she should. Maybe we put the weakness buff on Violet and Rimuru, because if we can get both of their EX alts, then that's gonna do a lot more damage than single target Space Milim, because she's not getting the extra 60% damage buff. She is getting the stacks though, but we just have to get to that point. And we already have an alt for Violet, which is good, But remember that we only have Summer Shizu, and she's only swapping one alt. So eventually, things are going to look a little bit worse for wear. So go ahead and use Lumi. Now here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap Rimuru out for Violet, because we still have 5 turns left. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time. And we get a full hand here. And then we're going to bring Shizu in for... no, we're not going to... Okay, I thought I brought her in for Milim, but oh well. Milim doesn't need too many orbs because she's not an EX unit, so, I mean, that's one good thing about her, is that we don't need to super constantly feed her. Rimuru, almost with the EX ult, it's looking pretty good right there. And then we can probably orb change with him. Ooh, I think that was a misplay. I should have used Rimuru's orb change first, that way we could have covered all the orbs, but it is what it is. We still have enough, so... Let's go ahead and orb change that. Maybe not the best idea right there, actually. Okay, yeah, let's use a stack. Make sure everyone gets a little bit extra. We'll bring Summer Shizu in for... Ooh, for Milim? What are we doing here? We've already used the orb change with Violet, which probably was a mistake. It would probably misplay right there. Because, but we do need the Unity orbs, so we're going to swap that out. Thankfully, it hit Violet's orb. Now we're going to rainbow those, and then we're just going to send the 5. That'll definitely get the EX ult for Violet, or not Violet, but Rimuru, and it'll get us max points, a good amount of gauge, and then it'll be looking pretty good as far as Violet's concerned, because now we should be able to swap her out after we swap Rimuru. Swap her ult out after we get Rimuru out of there, so we know that it's going to swap Violet's orbs. So Rimuru has 2 orbs right there, so that'll get Milim her ult next turn. And then we're pretty much ready to go at that point, because Rimuru does have his EX ult. But we still have enough time here to get Milim's ult and then swap her away. Therefore, we can make sure that Rimuru and Violet get the weakness buff, which I'm pretty sure I give it to him. Pretty sure. I don't remember. But I'm pretty sure I give it to Rimuru and Violet, and not Milim. So yeah, there's the next seal, so that's why we can't use the Drago effect, because he seals it, and they seal the backline as well, so there's no hiding her from it. So we're never going to be able to use the Drago effect when we want to on the nuke, which is unfortunate, but... Ooh. No, we don't do that. We do something else. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So let's get Milim out of there. Milim. Click Milim. Oh my god, click Milim. Alright, so yeah, we clicked Milim. We got Milim out of there. And we also got Guy out of there for Shizu. So we're going to send these 2 blues because we need a Shizu orb to ensure that we can bring in the 3rd nuke for Milim. So we need that. So on the final turn here, we're going to use the weakness buff on our 2 EX units. We'll bring Guy in for Shizu, use his alt buff ability, and then we'll swap him away for Milim. And we'll also use an orb change here. Right? Yes. So that'll get us a full 6-hand send next turn with 2 Milims and 1 Violet. So that works out really well. So magic buff, space buff, and then 2 more stacks of Lumi here, and then we'll see what damage we end up with. So, the substitutions are really up to you guys. Milim, Rimuru, Violet, Milim, Violet. So Milim does 421, not bad. Rimuru does 454 per person, so good. And then Violet does 1.6 million. So we're over 4 million damage right here, which is, isn't 12 million. But if you're not running the big maximum power damage team, then yeah, you're not going to hit that. So it is an alternate team, not as good, but substitutions must be made where you need to make them. So what does our score end up being here? 108. So definitely not as good, but it's still a score, and you only really needed to summon on the part 2 banner to get this. All the other units are in the general pool, or they're in that big anniversary banner that all the free tickets are for. So possible that you can run this team. But let's go on with the third alternate team that I've got for you. Alright, the last team that we're going to have for this video is the Warriors Mind team, because we do have 2 AoE space units that have decent buffs, who can do decent damage. Now, this is a crit-focused team, and if you remember, Leon is nerfing the crit by 50%, but on turn 8, Space Lumi lowers crit resistance by 40%, so we're cutting it down to just minus 10%, which technically is, yes, still a nerf, but we're going to attempt to overcome it a little bit by getting some stacking crit damage with the free-to-play Xion. So this is the full Warriors Mind team as it came out during the half anniversary. Velzard, Earth Rimuru, free-to-play Xion, Guy, Violet, and Lumi. We're going to nuke AoE nuke with double space units right here. If we have a single target with Guy, then cool, sure, whatever, but he's not going to do much damage. So we've got the alt buff and the crit. We've got the crit damage and alt resistance down. We've got the physical buff and the crit resistance down. And then Xion's got the stacking crit damage. And then Rimuru's here to ensure that we get EX alts for these 2 units, because he's just going to be able to push the alt gauge really, really quickly once we get more than the few stacks of Velzard going, who is stacking attack on everybody. So ideally, you should have, at bare minimum, the 2 AoE space unit alts that are EX, and a decent amount of stacks on them. So we don't have a Megumin or Violet here. So we're just going to use Xion to orb change on turn 1. We're going to run with 5 blues. If you've got the big 3 with the trait, 4 blues is enough to get you a protector. 5 blues is just extra, but it does help out. We just have to make sure that we get good RNG on turn 2, where we can send a full hand of blues. And thankfully, here we do. We get a Guy orb change, so let's go ahead and get a stack on everybody that matters, and then use the orb change. No Valentine orbs here, but on this team, it's not really that big of a deal if you don't get a lot of orbs, because we have the Rimuru, who's going to give us like 80 to 100% alt gauge every single time we use his skill. So the necessity for orbs on this team is not nearly as big as it is like the new Visions of Coleus 2nd anniversary team, because no one's rushing the alt, and I'm not bringing the Fount of Wisdom, or the Visions of Coleus Rimuru on the first team. We've got just a whole butt ton of damage units there. So, this turn looks a little bad, but we do have, 3 orb changers. We've got the green's covered, the orange is covered, and then we've got, Violet has herself covered, I guess. But there, we just had to send the orange and get them out, because we weren't going to be able to do much with that with the points we have available. So here, we're going to go ahead and swap Guy out for Violet. That'll bring us that blue. That'll give us a natural hand of blues right there. We'll use the Valentine extra stack of the Protector and get it on the 2 AoE units, because that's more important than trying to stack on Guy, because he doesn't have type advantage, and he's just not going to do that much in terms of damage output, even with all the different buffs. Like, we're gonna more benefit from giving the stacks to the girls than him. So here, incredibly lucky, all 3 green orbs are Violets, so that works out very, very well. So we'll just use a stack of the crit damage here on the girls, our first stack, and then we'll go ahead and just send it. We still have 4 more turns, and we've got alts for both of them. So now it's just a game of, let's just get all of their alts and call it a day with the Earth Rimuru. So another stack on, excellent, and then we'll go ahead and use another stack of the crit damage, I believe. Yeah, we'll get that out of the way. And then we'll bring Rimuru in, and we'll start using his skill. And then, no, I think I bring Rimuru in first, and then Guy, and I just send Guy's ult, because again, we don't need that for anything. So let's do, yep, Rimuru comes in for that. Let's start rushing the alt. So we're at 80% alt gauge right now, so 2 more stacks of Velzard before that gets maxed out. And that gets us, just a butt ton of alt gauge right there. So we're just going to send the alt and those 2 blues. That'll give us another stack of Protector. That'll get Guy's alt out of there, which means that we don't have to play around with not having a full hand of blues without him. And now, because Violet already has her EX alt, we'll get this stack on, and then we'll take her out for Rimuru, because she doesn't need any more gauge, right? She's good. She's good. But we need to get Lumi that little bit extra right there, which is more important. And we don't have any blue orbs right here. So the 3 right here could work. It does get us the ult for Lumi. So in that case, I just send it. Because as long as we have the 2 EX ults, then we're fine. It's unfortunate we don't have a stack of Velzard, but hey, it worked out. And look at that. We, things are a little bit funky here. But there's the 3 major ults, or 3 major buffs. And then we'll go ahead and use Rimuru's ult rush skill, because it does lower their defense by 20%. So, you know, it does help our damage out. But here, 620k across the board, 628k across the board, and that's going to put us at an end score of 4.2 million damage. So, I mean, it's not, again, not the highest scoring team, but it does get you an okay score. Definitely an S rank, right? But 107.9, it's not far away from what that other team gave us, you know, the half meta team. So if you have this, and, you know, maybe somebody pulled the entire Earth or the Warriors Mind meta from those free tickets, it's possible. Unlikely, but possible. And you could, you know, use your own kind of makeup if you want to. Violet wouldn't really do much here because everybody's physical and she's got that magic buff. So bringing her just for the orb change, I don't really know about that. Megamine you could bring instead of Guy because she's got the alt buff and the orb change that you need turn 1, but you wouldn't be getting the crit. So you'd have to bring somebody else to give the girls crit to take advantage of the crit damage and crit resistance down. So that'd be Fire Millum, essentially. And then you would seal the crit, and then you'd actually maybe end up a little bit better. But you wouldn't then probably have Rimuru to rush the ults, so that could be a little hairy. But those are the 3 teams I got for this video. Again, I'm sorry it's not the best showing of them, but I want to get these videos out. I will attempt to get better scores and post those videos down the line. But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.